This program, while curated to help you improve your health, contains general advice and should not replace the individual advice of your medical practitioner.
Honestly felt inadequate a lot of the time in how I looked and how I felt. Yeah, so 16, 17, I got diagnosed with depression at that point, actually. I think the biggest thing that I discovered was the link between gut health and mental health for me.
In life, it's normal to have ups and downs. But what do we do when we get stuck? I've always been fascinated by the healing journey. Why do some people get better while others fail to make the shift? Welcome to the Patient Series, where we explore the stories of 4 patients with complex health conditions to understand their journey to healing and how they made their shift.
We all have barriers to overcome.
The biggest thing that I discovered was the link between gut health and mental health. I deserve to be healthy and happy.
I'm Katherine Maslen, and this is The Shift. Welcome to the Patient Series, where we explore the stories of 4 patients with complex health conditions to understand their journey to healing and how they made their shift. My name is Katherine Maslen. I'm a naturopath, author, the founder and head of Shift Clinics, and of course your host of this mini-series and the Shift podcast. In season 1 of The Shift, we deep dove into the fascinating field of gut health. You heard the very best from 24 world experts in gut and surrounding health. You discovered the latest in microbiome research and explored the many facets of digestive health. In the expert series, you heard the stories and expertise of each of our amazing experts from season 1 of The Shift. In this short series, we're going to spend some time with the patients that have gone through their journey to make the shift. I'm going to delve into their personal healing journeys to understand what the process of making the shift looked like for them. It is my hope that from these stories you can get some insights and inspiration to help you make your next big shift too. In this episode of the Shift Patient Series, we have Gemma, a 24-year-old woman based in Brisbane, Australia. At the time of recording, Gemma had been attending the Shift Clinic for 12 months. And in this episode, we'll hear how she discovered the cause of her many health issues, including acne, depression, food intolerances, and chronic fatigue. We begin with the early years and see what develops from there. What was your birth like?
I actually had an easier birth compared to my older siblings who had a not complicated birth, but there were some issues with umbilical cords and other things going wrong at the time, but I had a pretty easy birth.
Yeah, so natural birth. Were you breastfed?
Mum tried, but actually this is where it started. I'm glad you asked that. Mum started giving me formula, and at the time didn't know that I couldn't have like dairy formula. So she did soy here and there, but I had a lot of reflux when I was a kid. So didn't really take to anything very well, and I cried a lot. I was a very difficult baby, apparently.
Yeah.
So I hear. Still to this day.
Okay, so you were a baby, had a bit of reflux, put on formula, like from a pretty early age.
Yeah, really early.
And then what about when you were like an infant or a toddler? Did you have any health problems then?
No, not when I was at that age.
Yeah. What about primary school?
Yeah, primary school, I suppose my only health issues that I kind of ignored, however, were lots of rashes and skin issues. So things like rashes on my legs or my arms. And closer to the end of primary school, I started getting symptoms like swollen eyes, swollen lips, red around the mouth, and that kind of thing. And we didn't really know what it was, so I actually went to a naturopath at that time, did some intolerance testing, and I was intolerant to dairy at that point.
What happened then?
Yeah. Came off dairy and symptoms went away, but being a 13-year-old girl wanting to, have milkshakes with her friends, I kind of ignored it somewhat. And then symptoms came back really quite bad when I was then 15. So I went to a naturopath again, and I was also told that I was gluten intolerant at the time, so it was gluten and dairy. And I took it seriously that time because I cared more about how I looked, and it was actually really quite severe, like in terms of how my eyes would look when I'd wake up. They'd be so swollen, I'd be so itchy, and it was really irritable. So then I decided to do something about it.
What we're beginning to see is an increased awareness around food intolerances and allergies. But so many people still have this story where they've been impacted heavily by eating foods that their body cannot tolerate. The end result of severe food allergies or intolerances like these is a cascade of inflammation that can then lead to damage of the gut. And as you can see in Gemma's case, this can lead to a significant impact on the immune system, which for her expressed itself as allergy-type symptoms, rashes and itchy, swollen eyes and lips. I wanted to dig deeper on how this impacted Gemma as a teenager experiencing this. How did it make you feel as a child to be experiencing those symptoms? Were you worried? Were you, what was the emotion or the thought process that you were going through at that age?
I was annoyed at that age probably because none of my friends were experiencing the same things and they could eat whatever they wanted. And I was kind of, I felt annoyed and also embarrassed because of how it made me look and feel. And, I was bringing weird foods to school and, I felt a bit out of place, I suppose. Yeah.
Did you have any other symptoms besides the physical stuff? Were there any emotional stuff going on, any other things that you remember around that age?
Emotional stuff probably came a little bit after. So 16, 17, I got diagnosed with depression at that point, actually. And I was put on antidepressants when I was 16. And I think at that time, doctors knew a lot about depression, but not as much as they know now. So my treatment probably wasn't as innovative as it could have been now. Yeah.
So what led to that discovery? How were you feeling? What was going on?
I started feeling really sad for no reason and lots of tears for absolutely, no particular reason. I'd come home from school and I would just feel, really upset, sad. I didn't want to talk to my friends anymore. I didn't want to socialise. I broke up with my boyfriend at the time. I just wanted to just be on my own. I felt really disconnected. And just so flat and sad and hopeless. I can't even explain it. And to look back now, it makes me so sad because I'm like, oh, you poor little girl. I wish I could have helped you more. I eventually got out of it though, and I eventually got better, but I was on antidepressants for quite a while.
Hormones are the number one thing that will make you feel crazy. Issues like weight gain, anxiety, depression, sleep, and even bloating are all impacted by our hormones.
I'm seeing the evolution of malfunction of the female body.
We're talking about women's hormones, we're talking about autoimmunity, and let's talk about the connection between the two there.
Season 2 of The Shift is coming soon and I can't wait. In this season of The Shift, I'm going to deep dive into everything related to hormonal health.
Turns out that being on your period doesn't make you weaker. It actually makes you stronger. Oh, whoa, that's so opposite of what I was taught growing up.
Does sex leave you feeling rejuvenated, ecstatic, transformed, and like it changed your life?
I would like to call to arms for women around the world to know that their intuition isn't lying to them.
Our hormones, as I think most women probably have experienced, are everything.
Make sure you subscribe right now and follow us on Instagram at The Shift Clinic so you don't miss a thing. So about 15 was when you cut out gluten and dairy and sort of clean. What was your diet like generally around that time? What were you eating?
It was still healthy. Mum always tried to give us lots of fruit and veg and that kind of thing. So I would consider it still healthy, but it was just that I was eating grains. So we might have a really healthy chicken and veg stew or a soup or, healthy pastas with lots of veggies, but the grains obviously were causing me lots of grief. And coming from an Italian family as well, we like to eat cheese here and there, and I did too. So, cutting stuff like that out. But I would say that it was predominantly healthy. In terms of snacks, I can remember from a really young age eating lots of fun. Mum tried to make vegetables fun for us, so that's why we like them now, I think, because, lots of little carrot sticks, veggie sticks, cucumbers, capsicums, whatever Dad was growing at the time on the farm. And then in terms of, brekkies, things like porridge and fruit for brekkie, toast. So at the time I was eating wheat, which wasn't good, but toast with healthy toppings on it, would try to do bananas and smoothies here and there. And then for other meals, probably, because Stanthorpe's quite a cold region, so lots of warm, hearty stews with heaps of veg in them, And of course, occasionally we ate out and we had naughty snacks here and there, but Mum wouldn't like to buy us packaged foods or anything like that.
Okay, cool. So you're 15, 16, you go and see a naturopath for the second time. You decide you're going to cut out these things, change your diet. What happened after that?
My symptoms in terms of like physical things like rashes and, the swollenness and that kind of thing definitely subsided. And then I stuck it out for a little while, but then again, I started being naughty here and there, 17, 18, I wanted to go out and eat things that I shouldn't, but generally the symptoms of rashes and that kind of thing totally went away. So that was great.
When you got put on the antidepressants, did that help you?
Yes. Yes, it did. I suppose I was in and out of counselling at the time as well, but there wasn't, I suppose, a lot of encouragement to try and consider coming off them until I was 20, 21. So I was on them for quite a long time, so for 5 years, and I never felt like I could come off them. But yeah, I suppose in the end I eventually did, and now I've been off them for 3 years, sorry, yeah.
So tell me some of the symptoms you were experiencing mood-wise.
Very up and down. So really happy one minute, really sad the next. But the sad moments were more so than the happy moments. So majority of the time I felt quite flat, very unmotivated, didn't want to do anything. Feelings of hopelessness, despair, that kind of thing. Didn't want to engage, wanted to just disconnect from people. And lots of tears. I was really teary for a lot of that period of time, yeah.
Tell me about your hormones growing up and your menstrual cycle. How was that?
That was normal. I had pretty easy periods, like not a lot of pain. They came pretty regularly until I went on the pill at 18 I was, yep.
Yeah. And how long were you taking the oral contraceptive pill for?
2 years. So originally I went on Levelin, I believe, and I went back to the doctor because I had breakthrough bleeding. So they then said I needed to go on like a stronger one. So I went on Yaz, and I still experienced breakthrough bleeding, irregular periods, and really excruciating period pain. So then they upped the dosage of a different kind of Yaz. I think it was Yasmin that I was on.
Did you feel any different mood-wise when you were taking the pill?
I would say that my moods were probably more drastically up and down than they were prior to taking the pill. And at that point, so at 18 as well, is when I started experiencing pretty bad acne as well. So it was all kind of happening at the same time.
We're going to have a lot of conversations about the pill on season 2 of The Shift, where we deep dive into hormonal health and so much more. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do so you don't miss a thing. What made you want to start seeing a naturopath and going on that journey again?
I suppose the thing that urged me to see a naturopath was that my skin was really bad. That was my biggest concern. Yeah, I had acne in places that I'd never experienced it before, so quite prominent on my chin, and then it went to my forehead as well. As I learned throughout the process with the, coming to see a naturopath, though, there were a lot of other things that I actually needed to work on, but the main thing that prompted me was how my skin looked.
So when you came in for your initial couple of visits and you started discovering things, like what were some of the things that you discovered about your health that you didn't know before?
Probably that I had bad gut health was the thing. I didn't know I had that. Probably also that my diet in some ways was highly acidic, and that there were foods that I should be eating less of and other foods that I should have been eating way more of.
What did you discover about the link between gut health and other areas of the body as you went through this process?
I think the biggest thing that I discovered was the link between gut health and mental health for me. And when you said it, I remember you saying it in the initial session, like how are you emotionally? And I remember you explaining the link between our moods and how we think and, our physical health as well and our gut health. And I was like, okay, cool, whatever. And then, through coming here more, I learned a lot more about it. And I now realize that it's so linked, it's so intertwined, how our mental health is and how our gut health is. And then physically how we manifest that as well.
So looking back throughout your life with the mood stuff coming sort of, as you say, out of the blue for no real sort of emotional reason, how much of that do you think has got to do with gut health and other factors?
Well, now that I reflect on it, I think there probably was a lot to do with my gut health, but we just didn't know about it, But if we look at my diet when the onset of, the depression and the mood issues were, it kind of does correlate when I was still dabbling in things that my body didn't like to enjoy.
Reviews help us know that we're hitting the mark with what you need and help us to shape future seasons. I'd really appreciate it if you could take a few moments to leave us a review. I would love to know what you think. The Shift! I want you to think back to 6 months ago, and I want you to try and list off as many symptoms as you can of what you were experiencing back then.
Acne, tiredness, irritability, mood swings, probably depression a little bit as well, stomach cramping, irregular periods. Oh my gosh, thirstiness. I was always thirsty, couldn't quench my thirst. Dizziness. I was feeling really dizzy, always had floaters in my vision, tired all the time, lots of fatigue, and allergies as well. I had bad allergies at that point.
So tell me, what happened once you started getting treatment? So what were some of the changes that you've noticed? What's been the progression and the journey for you?
I think I noticed changes with how I felt physically first. My digestion, I was noticing that I wasn't feeling bloated and I wasn't having cramps as often. We did lots of things like liver cleanses and lots of supplements. And I think to notice a change in my skin took the longest, but everything else happened really quickly. So my energy improved really quickly. And the biggest thing, like the most life-changing thing, was my anxiety. And I didn't even realize I was anxious until I started taking the supplement that had lovely lavender in it. Lavender is my friend. And I was like, why am I feeling like so cool, calm and collected all the time? And I didn't even know that I was actually so tightly wound up and so stressed and on edge prior to taking that. So that for me was the biggest, one of the biggest changes.
Do you think sometimes people don't realise just how bad they feel until they start feeling good again?
100%. And I think you get used to feeling a certain way as well, and you think it's normal after a while.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
How's your skin now?
Amazing. My skin is so good. I still definitely have moments where it will flare up, but I think the biggest thing is that I've learned how to deal with the emotional consequences of that. So old me would have had a breakout. Oh my gosh, why is this happening? I'm so stressed out. Like, this is really annoying. I need to cover it more. And I'm just really annoyed at myself. Like, why did you get that breakout? And new me is like, oh, your body's trying to tell you something. What have you been eating? Have you been exercising? Have you been deep breathing? Have you been doing mindfulness? And so it's actually like, now that a pimple comes, I kind of thank it because I'm like, thank you for whatever you're trying to tell me. So I have a nice little one on my chin and I'm like, that's because you had 2 glasses of red wine on the weekend. You probably didn't need both of them. And you ate a burger and, but all these other things that have come into play, like stress with uni and other things like that. So
that is just amazing. And I can't even tell you how pleased it makes me to how happy I am to hear that, because that is really the end outcome that we're looking for is that's tuning in, self-responsibility, looking at what your body's actually trying to tell you. And I think that a lot of people that are going to be listening to this will be in that, that place that you used to be, which is where you're sort of sitting in these things and you've been there for a little while, but it's become your new normal. And knowing that actually, there's once you know how to look after yourself, there's actually a much better path that you can take with that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's the biggest thing for me is that I've learned how to listen to my body. I never knew what that meant. People were like, oh, listen to your body. And I'm like, what does that even mean? And so I think this whole process taught me how to tune in, how to listen to what you're telling yourself in your thoughts when you look at the mirror, because that for me was a big part of my acne as well. And I also remember when you said that about how when, we have skin issues that the emotional aspect and what you're thinking about it has such a big part to play in whether your skin's going to get better and how much you're going to feel, how much stress you're going to feel about it as well. So, now I know how to, calm myself down and be like, you're okay. You're beautiful with the acne and without. And the association that I have with my skin now, I think determines how my skin is, honestly. Because that was one of the biggest things when I started de-stressing and realizing what I was actually telling myself that it was not okay. Once I started to learn that, my skin cleared up so much and at a rapid rate as well.
So what's been your experience of kind of conventional medicine versus the naturopathic side of things?
I think it was so normal in my family to go down the conventional path and to go to a doctor and to go on the pill. And I even actually went on Roaccutane for my skin as well. So, and all my products were always, filled with chemicals and that kind of thing. And I think that if that's what you want, then that's fine. Like, you just do you. But for me, I've realized the power in, going down the naturopath route and also changing my lifestyle in terms of what I put on my skin, what's in the products that I use, even in terms of household cleaning and that kind of thing. Because when I actually changed that, I noticed a real difference in my skin as well.
What are some of the dietary things that you found really useful as you were trying to heal and go through this journey?
I think lots of fresh foods. I would definitely say I was eating vegetables, but increasing my intake of like raw foods, so more salads, as opposed to cooking all my vegetables, having lots of raw foods as well. And kombucha is my best friend. Lots of kombucha. I even make my own kombucha now, which is really fun.
Great.
So lots of foods that, are high in pre and probiotics.
What do you think the biggest shift has been in your life so far?
Probably how I view myself, to be honest. Honestly felt inadequate a lot of the time in how I looked and how I felt, because people around me felt great, could eat whatever they wanted, looked great, and that wasn't me. So I was like, why isn't that me? I want to be there. I want to eat whatever I want and feel great and not have, any issues. But now I feel just really happy with where I am because I've learnt so much throughout this process. So I think the biggest shift is just how I view myself and how I speak to myself. That's probably been the biggest thing.
Do you think it's important for someone to seek support when they're on their journey so that they can get individualised care?
Definitely. And I think that whatever that support looks like for that person, that they should do it. And it might be different to my journey, but I think if I didn't seek support, I would not be where I am now. And I sought support through so many different avenues as well, in terms of, counselling and coming to see a naturopath and friends and family and doing fun activities outdoors and that kind of thing. So I think that support needs to be holistic.
What do you think was stopping you from seeking help initially?
I think part of it was that I didn't want to acknowledge that what I had going on was actually an issue. So I was kind of trying to ignore it and hoping that it would go away. And I think also just a fear of the unknown, a fear of what treatment might look like. And
What do you think's been the most important thing for you in your healing journey so far?
I think for me, the most important thing would be when I learnt to just be okay with how I looked, even if I didn't like it, and even if I really wanted to get better. And I was like, I've been doing this thing for so long now. Why do I still have acne? The minute that I accepted that I was beautiful regardless, and that I was going to try and commit to not wearing makeup and just being proud of myself and being okay with how I looked and loving myself the same amount when my skin was bad and when my skin was good, I think that for me was the biggest thing.
Can you tell me, what is your internal environment and dialogue with yourself now compared to, say, a few years back?
I think it's a lot more positive, and I still, don't get me wrong, I have moments where when I do get a breakout, my first response might be to still think, that's a bit annoying, isn't it? You might need to cover that up today. But now that I have the skills to kind of just stop, pause, and I think I just try to be a lot more kind to myself and remind myself like what's really important. It doesn't matter how your skin looks. How can you nourish your body and support it? And what does your body need in this time, as opposed to being angry at myself, because I didn't realize that anger was actually causing so much inflammation in my body at the same time. So it was so counterproductive.
What's been the hardest part?
I think for me, the time that it actually took to really get better, and I mean like in all aspects, mentally and physically. Because I thought in my head that it was going to be a really quick process and that, maybe 6 months I'd be feeling great, my mental space would be wonderful, my skin would be great, I'd be looking great, feeling great. And the reality is that so many things changed, and physically I was feeling a lot better. But in terms of the mental stuff and, the social stuff and the other aspects of my life that I really had to turn around, it took longer than I anticipated.
It's been so wonderful to see Gemma improve her wellness and take her health back into her own hands. A huge thank you to her for sharing her story. I know that there are a lot of you that this will help. Let's look at a few of the key insights we can take from this episode. The first one is around food intolerance. It's amazing how we can live with these types of issues. Sometimes patients are so unwell but don't realise that it's something as simple as gluten or dairy. Gluten and dairy are the two most common food intolerances. They very commonly cause gut issues, especially bloating, diarrhea, constipation, wind, and reflux. We talk about this in length in episode 9 of season 1 of The Shift, so be sure to take a listen if you haven't already. The other thing that we observe a lot at Shift is when people know they're intolerant to foods and know that they upset their body, but they eat them anyway. This is almost a form of self-sabotage, and to address this, we look deeply into your habits, behaviours and beliefs around food, as well as reasons why you could be prone to sabotaging your health. If you know you shouldn't be doing something but you do it anyway, you need to ask yourself some deeper questions as to why you're doing the thing that harms you. The other thing worth discussing is that there are so many different models of care, and you need to find the one that helps you best. The conventional medical model is very restricted in what it can do. Taking an antidepressant for depression may be effective for someone in the short term, but does it address the root of the problem? Even if medical treatment is needed, it's highly beneficial to take a holistic path and complement it by helping your body to repair, rebalance, and ultimately heal itself. If any of these themes resonate with you and you'd like some more insights into your health, then you're more than welcome to book a discovery and diagnosis session with a Shift Naturopath. These sessions are 90 minutes long and will give you insights into your current state of health, what your underlying causes might be, and what your first steps to healing are. Go to theshiftclinic.com to find out more.
Coming up on The Shift.
I think I was in hospital 40 times in those 5 to 6 years. I know that we ate a really traditional country diet, lots of gluten and dairy and sugar. I think because society has such strong views about what's normal or the way that we should look.
Have you listened to Season 1 of The Shift? If you're enjoying the Patient series, then you'll love Season 1, where we deep dive into the field of gut health with 24 world leaders in this area. Head back to your podcast app and go to episode 1. It's a great place to start.